So people, welcome to 1,000 Words. My name is Radu and this is Zimand IPA. A sweaty pint of locally brewed beer of the IPA variety. Very flavorful, quite bitter, very citrusy, very summery, perfect for a late May afternoon like this one, when we're talking about manual focus. About mid-July of 2023, I switched to Fuji for several reasons. Reasons I talked about in videos on the channel, but today I want to talk about one of those reasons, and that is the matter of autofocus. You see, by that time, I had been shooting exclusively manual focus vintage lenses for about 6 years, and while it is true that practice makes perfect, and I had gotten quite good at it, and that's not to say I'm bragging or anything, but it is just a matter of fact. It's a statement of facts. Once you do something long enough, you tend to get quite good at it. However, there were still situations and occasions when a frame was really busy or really dynamic, or my subject was walking towards me, or when there were kids involved, or pets, or something very hectic and unpredictable. Situations like those were when my manual focus ability simply wasn't up to par. So I missed focus, and while I'm not really that kind of person that looks for razor sharp, perfectly clinical, precise focus, I do want my images to be in decent enough focus, clear enough. So while not even that was possible at times, I began thinking that manual focus was holding me back. I even began recognizing a certain kind of situation or a certain kind of frame that was in such a way that I was not able to get a decent enough focus, so I didn't even bother to try and take the image. Eventually, it felt like I was missing out on a lot of shots because it seemed like I had begun feeling comfortable, and I had begun going for only the sure shots. So there was this thought that started growing in my head that I needed to try autofocus because that would allow me to get more images in better focus. So I eventually did. I sold everything. I moved to Fuji, I got autofocus lenses, and I started shooting autofocus. Spoiler alert, I've sold everything, but you probably already know that if you watch the channel, and I'm back to shooting manual focus exclusively. Thoughts and conclusions. Firstly, autofocus, while really spectacular nowadays, it made me kind of lazy. Now, some of you might even wonder or be surprised of the fact that I even want to talk about this when all the rage is AI autofocus this, autofocus algorithm that, and here I am talking about why I went back to manual focus like I'm in the 80s. But in all honesty, if they were able to do it in the 80s, why can't I? But let's get back on track. There's at least 3 reasons why I feel like manual focus is the way to go for me. You see, when I realized that I was able to get shots that I wasn't able to get before, I began being a little trigger happy, a little overzealous. Enthusiasm got the better of me, and I began kind of spraying. While I don't practically ever shoot in burst mode, I could just as well, because I kept going home to download a lot of really bad images off my SD card. Bad images with great, sharp, precise, perfect focus. So what's the catch? As far as I'm concerned, using autofocus made me too quick, too neurotic, too anxious. I was blitzing through scenes and I was taking a lot of images, and you see, I have a bit of an issue with multitasking. My brain kind of works by focusing on a single thread. I'm not really good with distributive focus. I get tunnel vision a lot. So shooting autofocus allowed me to really get a lot of images, but it didn't allow me the time to judge the quality of those images, because I'm of the firm opinion that you don't necessarily always have to trigger your shutter when you take the camera to your eye. Because, yeah, sure, the scene might look interesting, the light might be great, your subject might be beautiful, but once framed within the 4 sides of your sensor, things don't always look like they seem to. So on the flip side, shooting manual focus allows me that extra bit of time, that split second of a second to think if that frame is worthwhile. And doing that allows me to take better images, and that at the end of the day makes me a better photographer, because while I do go home with less images, they tend to be better nowadays. And this is what I realized when one day I took a good look at my Instagram feed and noticed a very quite noticeable difference between my vintage manual focus images and my Fuji autofocus images. The latter were all kind of flat and hurried and mediocre at best. Sorry for the burp. So I eventually realized that autofocus makes me too quick, and that's not a good thing for me. I need to be able to slow down a little, and this is probably perhaps point number 2. Manual focus suits me a lot more because I'm a bit of a lazy person. I'm of the laissez-faire attitude. I'm constantly trying to wing it. I try to improvise. Even when I don't know how to do something, I always try to do it by hacking things and circumventing the usual. So I think I'm getting a bit sidetracked here. What I was trying to say is that manual focus is much more suited to my personality because it allows me to slow down, it allows me to be more present, it allows me to linger. Yeah, that's the right word. Although while I try not to linger for more than necessary, because that also can trigger your subject into an on guard state, it can alert them to your presence, and that's about where you can say bye-bye to the authenticity of the moment, the unguarded nature of a candid shot. So while I do try to strike a good balance between lingering in the moment so I can feel it, so I can understand it, and also being gone fast enough so I don't trigger my subject, autofocus was just simply too fast for me. Manual focus allows me to just slightly linger in the situation, and on the one hand it allows me to have a better look at my image and decide if it's worth taking in the first place, and secondly it allows me to feel it more. And this is also tied to my third point, but feeling, it might prove to be a recurring theme, because while I'm aware that photography is about photographs, about images, about the end result, however, still, let's imagine a ridiculous world where you just blink your eyes or just do this and you end up with an image somewhere on your SD drive with your desired colors and framing and aperture and whatnot. I would simply probably stop doing photography altogether, because you see, for me it's really important to participate in the activity of photographing. For me, photography is also about photographing the action, the palpable side of things. I like the tools. I like turning and twisting knobs and rings to achieve focus and input settings. I like the feeling of pressing buttons. I like the sound of the shutter. I like feeling my camera. I like seeing the camera. I like hearing the camera. I like the weight of the camera. So for me, the experience of doing photography is, I think, at least half of the story. Sure, images are what we're all after, but the activity of photography is at least as important to me. While Fujifilm has some great lenses with really smooth, buttery focus, they're still electronically coupled to a focus-by-wire system, and their focusing response is not anywhere near that of an actual mechanically coupled, helicoid-driven manual focus lens. So while it kind of feels the same, it's really not in the least. So for me, it's really important that I feel how it feels. These are basically the reasons why I think manual focus is much more suited to me. This is definitely why I enjoy shooting manual focus lenses a lot more than autofocus, and this is definitely why I went back to at least part of it, because part of it is also the image. But today I only wanted to talk about the manual focus side of things. This has been Radu. This has been 1,000 words. Until next time, farewell. I hope you enjoyed this really rambly, ranty type of thing. Be well, everybody. See you next time.